The airport terminal buzzed with the familiar chorus of rolling luggage and impatient announcements, but amid the chaos, no one noticed the elderly man quietly waiting at gate 17. His clothes were worn, not ragged, but clearly aged, and his scuffed brown shoes had seen decades of service. He clutched a boarding pass tightly in one hand, and in the other, a faded photograph of a young woman in a nurse's uniform. That man was Samuel Owens, an 82-year-old retired mechanic from Detroit, flying to Los Angeles to attend the funeral of the love of his life, his late wife, Helen. Their love story had been nothing short of cinematic. They met in 1961 at a community dance. She was vivacious, opinionated, and elegant, the kind of woman who made you forget your own name with a glance. He was quiet, humble, with grease-stained fingers and a mind that could fix anything except, it seemed, the time he lost to work while they were young. After Helen passed, Samuel found her journal. Page after page recounted how she'd dreamed of flying first class with him, just once, to somewhere far, to feel the clouds below, to sip champagne, to be seen as more than just regular folks. She had cut out a magazine picture of a luxury airline cabin and kept it tucked between the pages. It broke his heart. With what little savings he had, Samuel bought a one-way first-class ticket to Los Angeles, not because he wanted the luxury, but because he needed to fulfill her dream, even if she wasn't beside him. Maybe, just maybe, he'd feel her presence in that seat. As boarding began, he walked slowly toward the gate, his heart pounding not from excitement, but from anxiety. He wasn't used to the polished world of first class. When he finally approached the jet bridge and handed over his ticket, the young flight attendant looked at it, then looked at him, her nose wrinkling slightly in disdain. "Sir," she said, voice loud enough for several passengers to hear, "this is for first class." "You can't be first class." Samuel blinked. "Ma'am, I think there might be some mistake. I booked." She cut him off. "Sir, I'm telling you, passengers in first class are already boarded. You must be confused. Please step aside so we can keep the line moving." The terminal grew uncomfortably silent. People turned. A few chuckled awkwardly. Others looked away, embarrassed for him. Samuel's hands trembled slightly. "Please," he said softly, holding out his pass again. "This ticket is all I have." Then came a voice. Calm, commanding, older. "Is there a problem here?" Heads turned. A man in a navy blue blazer stepped forward from behind the crowd. The flight attendant's face drained of color. "Mr. Hallstrom," she stammered. "Chairman. I didn't know you were flying with us today." Michael Hallstrom, chairman of the very airline, had been standing just a few feet away, preparing to board discreetly. But something about Samuel's dignity amid humiliation caught his attention. Maybe it was the tears Samuel tried to hide, or maybe it was the photograph now poking out of his breast pocket. The chairman took Samuel's boarding pass, examined it, and then turned to the attendant. "This gentleman has a valid first-class ticket," he said flatly. "And he will be boarding before me." Then, lowering his voice and turning to Samuel with a kind smile, he asked, "May I escort you to your seat, sir?" Samuel hesitated. I don't want to be trouble." "You're not trouble," Hallstrom said gently. "You're an honor." With murmurs trailing behind them, the two walked together down the jet bridge, while the flight attendant stood frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. Once on board, Hallstrom personally took Samuel's coat, adjusted his seat, and even asked the crew to bring out a small bottle of champagne. "Compliments of the captain," he said with a wink. As Samuel settled in, he pulled out the old photo of Helen and placed it on the tray table. "Is she flying with us today?" Hallstrom asked softly. Samuel nodded, his voice thick. "She always wanted to fly first class. She never got the chance." For a moment, the busy hum of boarding faded. There was only the hush of shared reverence. By the end of the flight, the entire cabin knew Samuel's story, not because he told them, but because the chairman did, sharing it with subtlety and respect, reminding everyone that some journeys aren't just about where you're going, but why you're going. When they landed in Los Angeles, Samuel was the last to disembark. As he stood up, the flight crew and many passengers clapped quietly, not for him, but for a love that endured beyond goodbye. The story made its way through the airline's internal channels, and eventually, to the public. The flight attendant was given diversity and sensitivity training. But more importantly, Samuel's quiet dignity reminded everyone that appearances can deceive, but real love leaves a legacy that deserves respect. The message: never judge someone by their cover. Every person you meet is carrying their own story, their own sorrow, their own dreams. Sometimes, the seat they take isn't about luxury, it's about fulfilling a promise, honoring a life, or simply remembering love.